we need to design with the beneficiaries in mind. You can't sit in Abuja and design for somebody in Guzau. The game is different. You've literally brought free Wi-Fi to people, but they can still access it.
Hello, my name is Tehemba, and you are welcome to Purple Diaries, Policy Innovation Center's platform for advancing conversations around gender and social inclusion. In line with the 2026 Gender and Inclusion Summit theme, Making Innovation Count for the Last Mile, we have engaged some amazing change makers to find out the amazing job they're doing to make innovation available and relevant to the ordinary man. I know you do not want to miss this. Watch out for it. Hello, you are welcome to Purple Diaries. It's such an honor to have you here today. Can you just give us a brief introduction and what you do currently?
All right, thank you for having me as well. My name is Andikan Ibanga. I'm an associate principal and education sector lead at Sydani Initiative for International Development. Basically, my work at Sydani is to oversee the education portfolio and our projects in the TVET education space. We work with girl, child, inclusive education. We work across basic and secondary education, teacher professional development, and more recently, out of school children as well. And that's what I do. I see that portfolio and determine the strategic direction of the work we do in that space.
So, in the work you do, have you encountered any challenges or barriers in STEM education, particularly for girls?
Yes, we have encountered some of those barriers, especially underserved areas, low resource settings as well. Some of them cannot afford to even learn at the scale that you need them to learn. They don't have access to infrastructure. And so when you're talking about barriers, they're actually multifaceted. When you couple out the cultural issues of those spaces as well, where a girl child will be likely left at home, when she has a brother, then it even becomes more challenging. So those are some of the things we've seen in some of our projects on the field.
Are there any innovations that you think that, if implemented, could help curb these barriers that you've looked at?
I think that when it comes to innovations, we need to look at it differently. I think sometimes we think if we just plug in one hole, we'll solve the problem. But I think it's first from a system lens. How do we innovate, or how do we create programs that actually are addressing each of these issues? So for the girl child, you need to look at things around inclusive spaces for them. You need to look at things around safe spaces for them as well. I wrote an article on LinkedIn, I think some weeks back, about how the girl child may not be safe in the classroom. And because of certain societal norms. And if you don't have structures in place, infrastructure to address that as well, it's also a challenge. And also things around sexual health and reproductive rights education. So I think in the way we design our programs, we need to understand these barriers and incorporate layers that could address these barriers and not just a one-size-fits-all approach as well.
Have you also noticed that there are challenges as it comes to digital learning in some of these underserved areas?
Absolutely. There are many issues in that regard. I remember all the programs we were doing across about 6 states, and we're talking about working with colleges of education. And many of the students in the colleges of education, typically, they come from, I would say, less than average households. And because of that, many of them don't have access to any digital learning platforms. Some of them, you might even have access to it in the schools, but they have not been sufficiently trained on them. One of the funniest challenges is also where you are able to design a solution that incorporates digital learning into it and realize that the sheer fact that you don't have access to these devices excludes them from the interventions as well. So it's great to say, digital learning, digital solutions, but when the recipients and the beneficiaries of these solutions don't even have access to the basic infrastructure, they don't have access to an Android phone, they're using feature phones, how do you get them to embrace those solutions as well? So clearly there are issues around digital learning interventions that we have noticed in the field.
I know that adaptation, in most cases like this, helps to bridge the gap.
Yeah.
Are there any offline solutions that we can use to actually bridge that gap?
Yeah, I think there are. I mean, I may not be mentioning names here, but there are solutions that we've tried to utilize and to create, and even if we design some solutions, because one of the things we also do for our developmental programs is that sometimes we have to develop a technology that works based off the realities on the field. One of the things you could do is have what we call preloaded lessons on tablets, on devices. And then you also ensure that when you are designing for them, you need to take into consideration the low bandwidth, the issues that they might face in those places as well. So what we've tried to do is design some of the learning management systems that are very low in terms of the bandwidth they are utilizing, but also allows you to utilize it even when you are offline. So even without internet, you could actually access lessons, you could continue your studies. Anytime you get even the smallest amount of access to internet, your progress is uploaded and it can be tracked as well. So I think that we need to design with the beneficiaries in mind. It's not enough to look at what has worked and looking exciting and just say, oh, this will be repeated. When you're talking about underserved areas and digital solutions, the game is different. You literally brought free Wi-Fi to people, but they can't still access it.
So you've worked with a lot of these underserved areas and people within those areas. What are the particular strategies or systems or things that can be put in place to actually ensure that these people get to have more access to education, STEM education, digital education, particularly for the girl child?
I think I said initially, any program you're looking at, you need to first of all understand that there are multiple barriers. Yeah. And you need to ensure that you're designing with that in mind. That's first things first. Secondly, I think you need to get to the community. I like to say, you can't sit in Abuja and design for somebody in Guzau. You need to go to the field. You need to understand the realities on ground. Even doing desk reviews don't cut it. Landscape assessments you have to be in the field. In also rolling out those solutions, you need to be able to start from the basics, what I'll call first principles, because somebody that doesn't even understand how to put on a computer, you can't be telling the person to learn on a computer.
Yeah.
So you have to start from the first principles every single time to say, where do we take them from this 0 where they are to point 1, and how do we bridge the gap so that the point 2 that the goal of the project is trying to get to can actually be gotten to? So what we've tried to do is ensure that we engage the communities, we engage with the gatekeepers as well. So there's a project we're doing in Adamawa State as well, where we've seen how the government, especially in terms of non-formal learning, has also provided some means. There is this issue of economics. So why would the girl child go to school if they are more valuable, as it were, by staying at home because of what they are doing for the community? And also, you have to also look at how do you disincentivize them from keeping the children at home, and how do you incentivize them to bring them to school? It's also an interesting angle. So we need to look at those multiple layers. We need to ensure that those first principles, those initial barriers are addressed, and then we can build effectively on them to get the results that we want.
I know that one of the stakeholders when it comes to education generally is the government. What policies do you think that could be put in place that would actually facilitate this whole thing?
Because it's education, I can say that the government already is doing a lot of things, and there's a lot of enthusiasm. I think the leadership currently has a lot of will to be able to do interesting things. And you'll be surprised that there are policies that are also supposed to fast track this. But the 2 layers, so at the federal government, it's kind of easier, there's that willpower, but education is at the concurrent list. And so you need the state governments to show similar willpower, to show similar political will, to be able to address this. So I think that there needs to be constant sitting on the table and saying, look, we can create these nice policies, but how will implementation work? And engaging the stakeholders at the state level, the LGA level, to ensure that it can actually be sustained at that level. Policy is not the issue we have in Nigeria. We can always draft very good policies. We have policies in place already for girl child education. There are a lot of policies to advance education in the nomadic areas. There's even a commission for Amajiri children. There's a commission for nomadic education. So literally, there's been investments in these spaces. The question is, how do you take those nice ideas and policies and affect it in the grassroots? And I mean, the community stakeholders have to be involved a lot more. Sometimes we just feel that once it is a policy, people should just follow through. But the parents, for example, of the children, how we're engaging them.
Yeah.
You see, how we're engaging the schools, how we're engaging the secondary schools, the primary schools, how we're engaging the alternative education schemes. So, for example, some of the Almajiri children are also learning, right, as well. So, how do you engage those structures to ensure that you can get to the girl child, you can get education to those who really need it, and they could learn and grow at that level? So I think those are the questions we should be asking ourselves going forward.
Just a final thought, as regards implementation of these policies, if there's one thing you're going to suggest that can be done, what would that be?
Let me take the major thing around in getting the girl children, more of them into school. The elders are the ones that create the laws most times, in the state level, at national level. How do you ensure that beyond just creating the laws, you can engage your people sufficiently to see that they can abide by these laws? That's number one. Number two, I was in a conference, I think in Kenya or so, and somebody reached out and said they're doing a program and they wanted to see how they could involve the fathers in the program. It's an education program. And I said, the fathers are always bothered about how to pay bills. How are you designing your program to show economic value for these fathers? And she was like, oh, well. I said, if you can show them the economic value, you say you want them to be coming to school, because if they come to school, it brings confidence to the girls, it brings confidence. And I said, they won't come. They won't come because they are trying to make money or whatever. So, because that is their traditional role, as it were. So, if you can now show how they are coming to school, adds up. If you could create something like a point system whereby each time you come to school, you accumulate points that leads to maybe reduction in school uniform fees. Now, the coming to school makes economic sense to them. So, we need to begin to look at those cultural challenges that I mentioned and see how do you design something or incentivize them such that if it's an economic issue that's making them, act like this, by bringing them into the system, that economic issue is addressed indirectly by it. So those are some of the ideas I will share in implementing at that level.
Very valid ideas. Thank you.
Thank
you so much. We learned so much on set today from just your feedback on the different questions that were asked. Thank you for coming here today, and we're looking forward to seeing you again soon on set.
Thank you so much.